Hello, my name is Chrissy Hodges, and I am an OCD advocate, a mental illness advocate. I have a podcast that comes on every week called Mental Health Matters Radio, and I work as a peer specialist here in Denver, Colorado for behavioral health care incorporated out in the community as well as in the state institution of Fort Logan. So just to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey with OCD, I am in recovery from OCD. What that means to me is that I know how to manage my symptoms. However, that doesn't mean that it's gone away. OCD will always be a part of my life. I just have developed coping skills, and in order for it to not interfere with my everyday life. I've had it for 30 years now, this year actually. The onset of my disorder started when I was 8 years old. My first fear was fear of throwing up. I had an incident in the classroom where one of the kids got sick in the class, and all of a sudden everything changed for me. I began having anxiety attacks. I started doing ritualistic behavior. There had been kids that had gotten sick in the classroom before. It had never been a big deal. I had gotten sick. My sister, everybody around me had gotten sick before, and it had never been a big deal until this day. Something just flipped. And all of a sudden I developed this obsession with throwing up and wanting to avoid it. And I began doing mental compulsions in my head, avoidance, prayer rituals, rumination, things of that nature, face recognition. That's kind of what I described it. I would monitor people's faces to make sure that they weren't getting sick, or if I thought they were getting sick. It was really weird. But these rituals from that day forward consumed me for hours and hours, every single day. Also, what happened was, in an 8-year-old mind, I didn't know how to make sense of what was going on, and I was terrified to tell anyone. I was so embarrassed because I knew it was stupid, but I couldn't stop worrying about it. I knew it wasn't. It felt like something had invaded my body, and I just kept thinking, well, maybe one day it'll go away. So I didn't want to tell my family in case it was just a fluke or just a phase, and I wanted to spare myself the shame and embarrassment that came along with those thoughts and all the time it was taking to do the compulsions. But how I made sense of it, we were a pretty religious family growing up. In my mind, it was good things happen to good people, bad things happen to bad people. And so at 8 years old, I thought, uh-oh, I must be doing something wrong. I must be sinning. I must be offending God for him to make me have these horrible thoughts. So I equated what was going on in my head as punishment from God. So this is called scrupulosity in the OCD world. So I was suffering at that point from Puro and scrupulosity, and every single day it was a battle to be a good person, and just so God didn't punish me with these thoughts. And I had a very unhealthy religious relationship, whereas I truly believe that whatever I did would determine the actions of God. So this is what I believed for 12 years. After the throw-up fear, I moved into really deeper, darker, uglier fears, some violent obsessions, harming people, harming kids, and then HOCD, so the homosexual OCD hit me pretty hard when I was a teenager. Again, I had never experienced these thoughts before, and one day it was just like something flipped, and I was worried every single day. What if am I going to turn gay one day? And the weird thing is, just like throwing up, the throw-up fear, which I still had, I never had minded throwing up before. The same thing. I didn't see anything wrong with being gay at all, but all of a sudden it was this thought in my head of what if this happened, what if overnight, and your life turned out to be this phony, like how, you like guys, but what if all of a sudden you had to flip that switch? And so that consumed me. So the two obsessions, those were two major obsessions, HOCD and the fear, emetophobia, and those consumed me for years. Now, I went through bouts of depression, which I equated to, I had just done something really wrong to offend God when I was feeling those horrible depressive symptoms. So I would do, oh my God, prayer rituals and asking for forgiveness and repentance over and over and over and over until it would lift. Eventually, I knew that it probably wouldn't lift, and that I was either going to have to tell someone or kill myself. And the better option for me was killing myself. mainly I didn't want my family to know that I was such a horrible person that God would punish me all the time, and that I had like proof that I had done bad things. So anyway, my family had no idea any of this was going on. For 12 years, I hid it. I created this huge persona of a person, great grades, athlete, tons of friends, and all the while I was suffering so badly. My electricity just went out. That was weird. Anyway, it's good because I had something in the stove and I probably needed to turn it off. So, yay. Anyway, so when I was 20 years old, it got too much to bear. My cousin passed away, and that was a trigger for me, and I fell into a very deep depression. Now, again, I had no idea I had a mental illness. In my mind, I wasn't one of those mentally ill people, and I wasn't even depressed. I was just being punished. So, I couldn't handle it after 3 or 4 months. It was very miserable, and that's when I decided it's just time to kill myself. So, I created a plan. I kept, praying to God that, please don't let this happen. Please don't make me have to kill myself. And then one night, I decided to give God an ultimatum. That never works. Ultimatums never work. But I was desperate. And I basically said, God, if you wake me up before 5 o'clock, that means you want me to die. And of course I woke up. I woke up at 2 a.m. and I was like, oh crap, well, here we go. God wants me to die. And so it was humiliating to me. And so I decided to follow through. And so I ended up stabbing myself in the stomach and laying in a frozen creek for about an hour, just hoping for hypothermia. I wanted to wound myself just in case I decided against it. Then I would hope that I would be too injured to save myself. Well, I did save myself. I think that my thought processes while I was there ended up going in a direction of I don't want to believe in a higher power that's going to punish me. And, what if that isn't true even? What if there is something else going on? And all of a sudden my mind started spinning more in the direction of, I don't think that what you're thinking has been right. What if there is another way? And so I decided against it. So I pulled myself up and I had to crawl. I was experiencing some severe hypothermia, so I had to crawl to the nearest house and get help. And I got help, went into a psychiatric facility, had to have stomach surgery, and I was diagnosed with OCD within 2 days, which is unbelievable because I had no outward symptoms. I don't even think the psychologist really knew. He was like, I think this is OCD, but this is weird. Like, this isn't like normal OCD. And I was elated at first, but then I also felt very angry. Now I'm mentally ill, number one, and number two, everything I believed up to this point was a lie, especially involving the scrupulosity piece of it. But I didn't care because Prozac, woo, that stuff was awesome. And so it just really took care of most of my symptoms, and I was flying high for the next year until I decided, hey, I don't need the meds anymore. When off medication crashed, all the thoughts came back, I was suicidal again, and that's when I decided to advocate for myself. I found a doctor in New York, Dr. Stephen Phillipson, OCDonline.com, and he had an article about Puro. And I read it and I was like, holy crap! It was thinking the unthinkable. And that article saved my life because all of a sudden it was, okay, I'm not some anomaly walking the earth with these horrible obsessions. There are other people out there like me that have the same obsessions. So I went through ERP and it was horrible. It was tough. But I learned what was happening and that I was really only afraid of the anxiety, not the actual fears. The fears weren't even real. It was just the anxiety. So that's where I learned to manage OCD. Now, after that, I fell into what I like to call personal stigma. So for the next several years, like 10 to 12 years, I was very angry. I was very sad. And I just thought I'm this mentally ill person. No one's going to ever love me. No one's going to ever hire me. So I decided to start my own business because I didn't think anyone would hire me. And brought it down here to Denver, and I relapsed very bad in 2011. And that's when I just decided, you know what, I'm not going to be angry anymore. Screw this. Like, I'm going to start shouting to the rooftops about Puro because I know there's other people out there that are experiencing the same thing, that need help, that don't want to be alone. So I started speaking. I created the podcast. And from there, it just snowballed. I've met so many cool people that, that are advocates or that have mental illness and they don't know how to, speak out loud about it, or are stuck in the personal stigma phase. And together with those people and the people that are, pioneering advocacy, it's just launched me into full-on recovery for OCD. So now as a peer specialist and doing public speeches around Denver and around Colorado, it really has just made my experience with OCD worth it. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't know the lessons that I have learned. I would not have this empathy inside of me to want to help people with mental illness who are very misunderstood and very stigmatized. So that's me in a nutshell. Sorry, it was a little long, but I am an advocate for pure OCD. Please feel free to message me. I love meeting people that have the same type of OCD and the symptoms that I have, just because it makes me feel better knowing there are other people out there, but you don't have to suffer alone. You don't have to suffer in silence. The treatment works. So that's me, Chrissy Hodges, pure OCD advocate. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.